I need you to understand something here. I have an unopened copy of the new Animal Crossing. And if you know me, you know how much I love games like Stardew Valley, any little slow burn game where you just create a world of your own. I could be sinking so much time into that, but I'm like, this hasn't even crossed my mind because of how much I enjoyed the first 3 episodes of BNA that I'm like, screw this. We are going straight into episodes 4 through 6. That's how much I'm enjoying this show. If it wasn't for Snafu being aired in the same season that BNA is currently airing in, I would be already willing to say this is probably going to end up as my anime of the season. 6 episodes, half of core, I've already consumed, and Snafu means too much to me. I know it's not going to be able to surpass that, but it doesn't shy away from the fact that this show is pure quality. Everything I loved about the first 3 episodes is pretty much just improved upon. I would say out of the 6, episode 4 would probably be my least favorite, but it was still a high quality episode with the whole idea of letting our girl actually start being able to transform back into being a human, meeting a new friend who's the daughter of a very scary mafia boss, which was a pretty great adventure. The 5th episode was literally something that reminded me of that Samurai Champloo episode where they played baseball. It was so wild and wacky that I'd be perfectly fine having a BNA season that is only just Beastman baseball, where they gamble, they put their lives on the line, and we have a human who basically teaches people how to love the sport without being scummy about it. And then episode 6, we get reunited with Nazuna and how she's pretty much a cult leader because she wants to be an idol. Like, this show just has so much going on for it. Ever since they pretty much brought up this whole idea of like this like religious figure that appears to be like a full-on animal, not this like hybrid of humanoid and animal-like design, it's always been, to me, like, pretty clear they want to go the route of Shiro probably being that actual representation, especially because there's been characters who have made note of, we have one girl, Mitsuru, who pretty much is a shapeshifter, and another who seemingly is invincible. So I'm curious if they're going to go that direction, because it was very clear that Nazuna was not going to be the goddess, the god of this species, but rather the cult's manipulating to it's pretty much a religious thing of, like, getting people to pay them to worship them, when really there's probably not a lot of truth behind what they're saying, but they just want something to believe in, so it gives them peace of mind. But I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Shiro, because over episodes 4 through 6, he wasn't as important, I would say, as in the first 3 episodes, but I liked how he wasn't, like, dominating the screen, but rather allowing Mitsuru to pretty much hold her own in the show. Because honestly, she is my favorite character in BNA to date. She is someone who is fun, she is cute, she is rebellious. She just has a lot of things that makes her fun no matter the situation she's in, whether she needs to be emotional and dramatic, super serious, or just downright adorable and playful. She just has this like really interesting range to work off of, and I think the 5th episode really showcases it the best, where she pretty much just wants to play basketball and then gets roped into baseball, which is such an exhilarating ride. I love the idea that it's such a scummy sport where you literally try to kill the other and the crowd just goes wild for it, and there's this underground gambling way worse than anything we'd see in our own world, and how this girl, because of her shape-shifting abilities, is just a total tank. And I love how Shiro's like, hey, you're supposed to keep this on the down low, but when you get into the sport, when you're really enjoying something, it's kind of similar to just like transforming back and forth between your forms. It's just something that naturally happens and you can't even control it. And how you have these like flamingos or whatever just being total bitches, and how they are insulting and get put in their place. I've never been more satisfied to see baseball anime than probably that. I mean, I don't like sports anime, but it's all about how you present the sport, and the way they were getting these characters to light up, these poor little critters. You just felt so bad for them. They're getting annihilated, and then they finally had a spark of inspiration as if, holy shit, maybe we can win. They did a great job with that 5th episode to really make you feel like, holy shit, there's just so much bad things happening in this world. They're living in the slums, they don't even have clean water. Pretty much like their offering is a glass of clean water that they got from the park. It's understandable why anyone would not want to turn that away, even if they are a little rebellious, or get caught up in pretty much a loan shark scheme where they can't pay it back and they're going to get burned on the stake. I love how Trigger can just introduce characters who aren't going to be overly relevant. They're going to pop up every so often, there'll be a side character, but they're never going to dominate the screen for the entire run. But you just look at these bears and just what they get into, and you can't help but love them. Trigger definitely is pulling from that Kill la Kill route, if I'm being 100% honest. There's so much to the absurdity that just mirrors what I loved about Kill la Kill, and it definitely brings a giant grin to my face watching episodes like the baseball episode. It was great to see that, but even how they sprinkled in like that emotional pull of a coach who is an alcoholic drunk, he's just always passed out, and you see why he got that way after basically loving the sport and then pretty much getting beaten and bruised by just everyone around him for just being who he is, and it turned him into someone who's a lot more violent and hostile, and then eventually was able to kind of return to it because of Shiro's guidance, just really loving the sport and not wanting to see it crash and burn. It's nice how they can definitely have that dramatic like they've had in the first 3 episodes, but have an episode be dominated by fun, where yeah, you can look at things that are going to kill you or annihilate you, but you can still reel it back in and look at a character like Michiru and just say, holy shit, this show is fun. And I love how they're definitely bouncing around it, where when it wants to go serious, it definitely can. But it's not like they're going to the road of like, you know, everything sucks 24/7, but rather this is supposed to be a city where people of this species are supposed to feel safe, turning in and outside of their form. So it's nice that they're letting people feel a lot more comfortable, and just experiencing their culture is such a difference to what we see. Like baseball, we would think we know what to expect, and we have no idea what to expect. Or how with the 4th episode, we have this whole idea that pretty much the idea of like outside internet and things like that, it makes sense why they would cut it off, especially if there is this like really big history about why the two sides don't really like each other. So to pretty much have to like get black market phones and SIM cards, things like that, then how you interact with a girl who turns into like a dolphin, and how it just felt like when she interacts with characters and she builds these friendships, it almost always feels like it starts on the worst note where she's getting shook down, it looks like she is going to die, and then something adorable happens, and I love it so much, which it really does go to help with like the way the characters are designed for the most part. Sure, there's definitely some very menacing beastmen, but man, there's a lot of adorable ones, so it makes that transition from monstrous to cute very seamless, if I'm being totally honest. And that moment where they're basically at the party, I thought that was actually really interesting, because you would think that's all she ever wanted. She wanted to be able to turn back to her human form. It was pretty much just she didn't know how to do it because it randomly happened to her. The show's over, right? Of course, you know it's not going to be over, but it was interesting how they gave her a realistic reason to come back to it, because I mean, not only did you see the girl almost drown because these humans are dumb and just like, oh, she's a dolphin, I guess she just wants water, right? And she had to basically save her. There's so much she doesn't know even about her own species now that she's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, where she definitely wants to learn more about the species and not only what happened to her, why it happened to her, but maybe is that really where she wants to go back? So it actually gives her a justifiable reason of continuing to push back to that city and not totally go home, because now she can transform even if it feels like she's wearing high heels all the time. 4 was definitely a lot slower of an episode, but it was great for her character to kind of like build up that confidence of who she currently is, kind of give her that conflicting question of who she wants to be in the future. And I like how she doesn't want to turn back to being a human. Not only is it good for the story just because her beast form allows her to literally transform like a transformer and just do weird things that are so mesmerizing and just like, what the hell, Trigger? You have been waiting for a show like this, haven't you? But at the same time, it just lets her really explore that, like, what do I think of this species? Is it really a disease or is it a blessing? She doesn't know yet, so that's really great. But the 6th episode and the whole idea of the friendship, you knew they weren't gonna like hug and make up or, you know, just feel like everything was okay. She got kidnapped and now she's a leader of a cult. But when you really take into consideration what we learned about her backstory and how she was really trying to like edge her on, say, hey, I really want to see you be an idol. And she technically is an idol just by a different name and rank. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, because the whole idea that we have someone like Shiro who immediately is like, that person cannot stay here, shuns her away. It really does lend itself to believe that maybe Shiro really is the true version of this deity or something like that. Maybe it doesn't exist, maybe it is just a rumor, or maybe it does exist and it'll be a completely separate character. But thinking about it, if he really is the true one that they worship and he sees an imposter and a fake, and he's someone who doesn't believe you need to offer food for a god to protect you, it just feels like the way he talks about this religious figure, it feels like he's talking about himself. Like, you don't have to worship me, you don't have to do all these things, just be a decent person and I'll protect you. And anyone who takes up his name and image is like just garbage in his eyes. I mean, granted, that could be a red herring. It's not going to be the first time an anime like this could do that, but to me, I'm definitely for that theory. I'm definitely for thinking he could be a really powerful entity, or maybe he's not even realizing he is. I don't know. There's just a lot of possibilities to explore that kind of like religious angle and what the purpose of this cult will be in the long term, especially because they kind of had a falling out after being so adorable together, realizing that they're definitely two separate people right now, and who knows what that conflict is going to bring. I mean, when I binged episodes 1 through 3 yesterday, I loved it. I was like, can it get any better? I mean, you already showed me the company, you already showed me the series. It's wacky, it's wonky, I love it. And then I binged 4 through 6 and I love it even more. And now the wait for episode 7 is all the more painful. This show is just so great. It is different. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's trying to be the B-stars of the season or this of the season. No, it's BNA, brand new animal. It has a lot of things to explore, and I like how episodes aren't just doing the same thing. Honestly, if you compare all 6 episodes, they kind of did something very different each time, with obviously 5 sticking out the most for me because I love that baseball. The show's great, the voice actors are continuing to kill it, the OST is still slapping all the right notes, but let me know your thoughts and opinions on any of these episodes down in the comment section below, and how excited are you for episode 7 when we eventually get it? Do let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.